Hey friendo, Steve here. Welcome back to another Ask WrestleJuice. We're full on in WrestleMania season, but you guys asked a bunch of questions about a bunch of different things, so let's go ahead and dive right into it. Lance Gilmore 9621 asks, I agree Cody has to win this year, but did creative lose the plot somewhere along the way with Roman? I feel like the end of his reign should be like the end of Training Day, where the big villain pays for all his wrongs. I kind of feel the same way. But I'm optimistic that starting on Friday, so tomorrow on SmackDown, when Cody and Roman have their face-off and Rock is nowhere to be found, then we'll get more Roman Reigns in the build to Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes. I feel like they really need to give us at least one twist or turn along the way. I'm assuming Cody is going to try to play some mind games with Roman Reigns. Maybe The Rock will be there because they did the whole, oh, you're coming alone. You're going to give us your word that you're coming alone. But yeah, I kind of feel like Roman is taking a back seat to The Rock for right now. There is, 3 weeks left? There's 3 weeks left until WrestleMania. Still plenty of time. 3 episodes, I guess, left to really punctuate how important Roman Reigns is to Roman Reigns' own story. What I'm hoping is going to happen is we'll get some more Roman Reigns after WrestleMania if he loses the title. I don't know. Look, as entertaining as The Rock has been, the absence of Roman Reigns from a lot of this story has been really telling. Maybe that has to do with the decision on WWE's part to pivot from what might have been Rock versus Roman to Cody versus Roman, and they're just using a lot of The Rock and Roman's just out of the picture. I don't know. I really don't. But I kind of feel like the next 3 weeks are going to be kind of make or break for how this particular, final act for Roman Reigns' title run is going to play out. Unless, of course, Cody loses at WrestleMania, in which case this is just another speed bump along the way, and the ultimate goal is Roman versus Rock. I kind of feel like that's not the case, but time will tell. But up until now, since The Rock has been back, Roman's kind of been, to a degree, in the background. But we'll see what happens on Friday on SmackDown and over the next couple of weeks. Hopefully there's a lot for Roman Reigns to do. I feel like this is how it's going to play out. Cody's going to get under Roman's skin, which is easy. Everybody does that. And he's going to use The Rock to do it. He's basically going to call Roman Rock's side chick. And that's going to get under Roman's skin. And he's going to have a hard time coexisting with The Rock after that. They'll probably, because I know Rock is scheduled for an episode of Raw. So they'll have opportunities to double up on the storyline heading into WrestleMania. So theoretically, that could mean there's another 6 episodes where we get more between Roman and Rock along the way. So that's what I hope is going to happen, that we'll get more Roman Reigns, because I agree. Right now, it's not looking great for this being like really, really solely focused on Roman Reigns, and I feel like that's where it should be. Tyler Warden says, how long can the tag titles remain unified? Wouldn't it be more beneficial to split them back up or to truly unify them into floating titles in perpetuity? So I've heard this a lot. I've heard that they're going to, at WrestleMania, use the ladder match to have one team pull down the blue straps and one team pull down the red straps. I don't really like that. I feel like the straps really should be defended as one thing. They haven't actually unified them. I know there's been reports that they had new titles that I think were unified. The WWE draft is coming up. I get the feeling that what's going to happen is we will get that sort of 2-team finish at WrestleMania, and then they'll just be split by the draft. And we'll have SmackDown Tag Champions and Raw Tag Champions again. I kind of feel like that's what they're going to do. I could be wrong about that. If it was up to me, if it was me making the decisions, if Triple H said, hey, Steve, what should we do with this situation? I'd probably split them. There's a Raw and SmackDown women's title. There's Raw and SmackDown WWE men's titles. Both brands have their own mid-card titles. Therefore, both brands should have their tag titles, or You get the men tag titles on one brand like Raw, and then the women's tag titles on SmackDown. And then you introduce maybe a mid-card title for both of those for the women as well. I don't know. That sounds like a lot of titles, to be honest with you. I'm not sure I like that, but I don't know. As far as the men's tag titles are concerned, I'd probably just split them. Just split them. That's what I'd do. Not through the ladder match, so I don't like that. The Happy Gamerino says, who are some older wrestlers who should start taking a step back and let the younger guys shine? He says, I think Jericho shouldn't get a segment each week on Dynamite. Give your TV time to someone else, Chris. I agree with that one. I think Jericho definitely needs to take a step back. He's on TV way too much. A guy who is around a lot, but he's kind of not hogging the spotlight. Like Mox is another name that comes to mind. I feel like Mox needs to be in more high-profile feuds where he loses. Like, I feel like if Swerve beats Joe at whatever pay-per-view's coming up, if Swerve beats Joe, whenever that happens for the title, he needs to take on Mox next and beat Mox. I think, yeah, John Moxley needs to be losing to really, really high-profile names. I feel like he's a guy that they really need to be precious with his losses, but they need to do that. Get him out of the tag thing with Cesaro or whatever they're doing with them. Yeah, so Mox is kind of one of them. Beyond that, like, I don't know, like, who was there from the beginning of AEW? Guys like, I don't know, the Young Bucks, but they're sort of, freshening back up, I guess. So it's not going to be them. Pac has barely been around. I'm just thinking of people who were there from the beginning. Cody's obviously already at WWE. So I don't know how many like older guys in AEW can really step aside. Like Joe should probably put some people over after this title run of his. In WWE, oh man, I don't know. I mean, is Roman Reigns going to go on like a losing tour now? Is he going to like lose to Gunther in Berlin? Is he going to obviously he's probably going to lose at WrestleMania? Is he going to take that L to Seth at some point? Seth's been around for a long time. Should he start taking L's to people? Probably. Becky's about to take big L to Rhea Ripley. Seth's probably going to take that L to Drew McIntyre, though. So I think he's probably going to be without a title for a little while. Strange Will says, with Jay White, Ospreay, Okada, and now Mercedes Moné all having caught heat with a large group of fans, do you think the tribalism in wrestling will mean anyone who signs with AEW gets similar fan backlash? Yes. Amongst a group of people that you really shouldn't pay attention to. No matter who it is, somebody signs AEW, there's going to be a certain segment of fans who shit on it. It's not necessarily the same as it is with WWE, but there's a degree there as well. I'm not really calling like one group of fans worse than the other. But yeah, as soon as Mercedes Moné debuted in AEW, I heard people chirping. And here's the thing, like, I kind of feel like AEW's presentation just isn't as big as WWE. So yeah, it's AEW. She's going to show up there. She's not going to feel as big as she did in WWE. That's okay. I'm all right with that because I think her matches are going to be better in AEW than they probably would have been had she gone back to WWE. And it's a change of scenery, and it puts off her WWE return even longer. And the longer you're gone from a place, the better it usually is. But there's so many disingenuous arguments out there, and there's so many people who crow about shit that just really... It's like, there is a degree of, you don't have to say everything that comes to mind. You don't have to criticize everything loudly and rudely on social media. Honest criticism is one thing, but just crowing because I don't think she's a good promo. Okay, well, that's fine. Doesn't matter. None of it matters is wrestling criticism. Money13 says, do you think AEW having a lot of tweeners hurts their storytelling? It's nice to have wrestlers with versatility to do both, but for some storylines, it'd be better to have predefined roles. So you're talking about the good guys and the bad guys, and you got the guys in between, sort of serve both functions. I mean, like, if you take a look at, for example, a Samoa Joe, and I don't know if I agree with this premise about the tweeners thing, necessarily. Like, Joe gets cheered because everybody loves Joe, but he's clearly a bad guy, right? Swerve Strickland is clearly a good guy. He had like the change of heart, and he said, I've done a lot of bad things and I'm atoning for them. So he's a good guy now. Hangman Adam Page turned from a good guy into a bad guy. He's a bad guy now. I kind of feel like the roles are fairly well defined in AEW. Just because a bad guy is getting like, you know, cheers from the crowd doesn't make them less of a bad guy if they continue to do like cheaty things or act in a particularly violent manner when they don't have to. It's still a bad guy. Like I think Mox is kind of a tweener, right? Like they just sort of use him in whatever way they want to. Like sometimes he's a good guy, sometimes he's a bad guy. But it all kind of fits in his character. I think that's what you really want to get it down to, is just come up with characters that just work. Like Samoa Joe is going to be the same guy, whether he's a good guy or bad guy. Maybe if he's a bad guy, he's going to be a little bit more vicious than if he's a good guy who happens to align with another guy who traditionally is good. Does that make sense? I don't know. I don't think it hurts their storytelling, though. I think that they have a cast of characters that I feel like is really strong at this point. They've got some new pieces, I think, that are really, really good. Okada clearly is a bad guy because the Young Bucks are bad guys. You know, Eddie Kingston's a good guy. I don't know. I kind of feel like they don't have too many tweeners now that I'm really sort of putting my mind to it. I mean, Orange Cassidy's a good guy. He was a title holder. Roderick Strong's a bad guy. Adam Cole's a bad guy. Wardlow's a bad guy. So, no, I don't know. I kind of feel like AEW doesn't really have that many tweeners. Maybe you can give me some examples in the comments, Money. I'd appreciate that. But no, I think that storylines are largely dependent. Although, yeah, it depends on the characters. But, like, you know, you got to have some intriguing developments and plot twists and whatnot. All right, Ken Adams Business Firm 2435 says, bear with me here, but I want your take on this. What is the Continental Crown Championship? Is it another mid-card title? An attempt at a second world title? I'm really confused. Additionally, they marketed the tournament winner as the first Triple Crown champion of forever or something, but what constitutes Triple? Okay, so number one, Ken Adams. I did what I'm going to suggest you do, and I don't mean this with any snark whatsoever, but it really helped me. Google can explain this better than I can. I'm still even kind of confused by it. So your first suggestion here that it's a mid-card title, that's what it is. It's a mid-card title. It's like the international title. Now, what it originally was the AEW Continental Crown Championship and the New Japan Strong Championship and the whatchamacallit, the Ring of Honor Championship. And they're all defended as a Triple Crown. So somebody goes in and they defend the Triple Crown, and that they're defending all the titles at once. However, each of those things, from what I understand, can be defended on their own if you want it to be. For example, Dynamite last night. Okada won just the Continental Crown, which I think that still makes Eddie Kingston the New Japan Strong and Ring of Honor World Champion, I think. As far as like the actual Triple Crown, I think there was one a long time ago here in the States, but in Japan, there was a Triple Crown, and I think there's still a Triple Crown. And I'll be honest with you, I forget what all that shit was. So you just got to Google it. Honestly, it was sort of much ado about nothing. They just like to say Triple Crown a lot because it sounds really cool. But like in terms of the historical nature of it, when I read about it, it really didn't seem all that impressive. It's not like WWE ever had a Triple Crown. Had a Triple Crown. I don't know. Look, I'm just being real with you. All right. I looked up the history. I was like, oh wow, they're making this sound really, really important. Well, good job, AEW. You made something sound really important, but like, kind of not a big deal. King Queen Halen says, do you think EO has to win at Mania with all of Damage Control at her side, or do you think they can find a way for Bayley to win without making them look bad? So it's been better recently, but there was a period of time when Bianca Belair would absolutely humiliate all of Damage Control in one fell swoop on a weekly basis. That's not as much anymore, and I feel like ever since Asuka showed up, they've done a good job at keeping Damage Control looking pretty strong. So, with EO, I'd love to see her win at WrestleMania. I feel like Bayley's going to win. However, I also feel like the people that Bayley is bringing with her, namely Naomi and probably Bianca Belair, might mitigate Damage Control's influence, leading to Bayley picking up the win is probably how it's going to happen. But Bayley's also really selfless, so maybe she's going to find a way to get EO to win. I don't know. I kind of feel like everybody that Bayley has done wrong, she needs to sort of sacrifice for them. So if you look at like Bianca, if you look at, well, not really Naomi because she wasn't really there, but she's the one coming to Bayley's aid. I feel like Bayley should help them get the win more than they should help her get the win. I don't know. I feel like Io needs to hold on to that title for really to be a memorable title reign, but I don't know if that's going to happen or not. I kind of feel like Bayley's going to win that one. This is a good one from Diehard Homer. It says, how long does a title reign have to be for the champion needing to be the one who gets pinned? Like if Gunther lost on a three-way but didn't need the pin. This is a great question because it's my firm belief that at a certain point, a title reign sort of turns a corner and it becomes more important for the person who has it to lose it straight up for the person to win it in order to sort of get the rub, so to speak. I don't know what the exact time is. If it's like, I don't know, 6 months and a day. That sounds good. 6 months and a day. Jose Palomares says, have you seen the Iron Claw? Not yet. I'm going to once it shows up on streaming free gratis. Then I'll watch it. Asian sign guy Cena says, do you think WWE is wasting Jade Cargill's potential by not using her since the Royal Rumble? No. I feel like they are making sure that when she shows up, she's ready to go, and they're not going to do anything with her until then. My word of the day, people, is patience when it comes to WWE. I think that, like, you know, you take a look at somebody like Candice LeRae, for example, right? She's been sitting around doing a whole lot of nothing. Just sort of been involved, been placed in the matches where we know she's just sort of filler material, if you will, background, if you will. But lately, she's been doing this thing where she's tired of being background. She's tired of being filler. And so what she's doing, she's being a bad guy. And she's like wrecking people. And she's taking advantage. And she's an opportunist now. That's a story they got for her. And I feel like that happens to a lot of people in WWE where they'll get around to you. They will find something for you to do. Just give it time. Karrion Kross came back like a year and a half ago, and it took him a good year to get around to finally doing something. Sometimes it just takes time. In the case of Jade Cargill, I think they just want to make sure that what she does in the ring is more substantial than what she was doing in the ring back in AEW, which might have been the reason why they didn't really push her much in AEW beyond being like this Goldberg-esque TBS champion. So I think in WWE, they're just trying to make sure that she gets enough experience and reps in the ring before they get, because she's getting a main roster debut. She should not be in that little tiny NXT venue on the CW. She needs to be on main roster looking like $1 million. So is she going to be involved some way, somehow in the Naomi, Bianca versus Damage Control stuff at WrestleMania? There's a possibility because you're in a 6-man. And so there's a lot of stuff you can do there where she doesn't have to do a whole lot and she can still be this big presence. But I just feel like there's no need to rush. There's no need to rush. There's no need to rush. In kayfabe, maybe she's just, has other engagements in kayfabe. It's like a Will Ospreay thing. He shows up, hey, pop that, I'm going to be around eventually. And then he shows up a couple of months later. It's been a little bit longer than that for Jade, but that's okay. Once she makes her debut and she's on her path, nobody's going to remember that it took them 6 months or however long it's taken to get her in the ring. Richard Ives says, do you think Owen Hart would have been World Heavyweight Champion if he joined WCW with Brett? I mean, anything's possible in WCW. WCW 2000, David Arquette and Vince Russo are both champions. That being said, I don't know. That's one of those things where I'd have to see it to believe it. Owen was, I loved Owen. I think Owen was great, but given where he was, I don't know. He was hanging out with Jeff Jarrett, and then they put that title on Jeff Jarrett a million times, so maybe it's possible. I don't know if I see it, though. I don't know if I see it. Louisa Raza says, have you ever had a moment of FOMO? Sure, everybody does, right? My wrestling FOMO was SummerSlam a couple of years ago. I think wasn't there one in like Vegas or something like that? And all the mods went for going in Raw. Like Maggie and Dope were there. And I would have loved to have met them. I thought that would have been really cool. But I couldn't go because we got to do the streaming thing here. So I couldn't go. But I wish I would have gone. That would have been fun. We'll end on this one from Patrick Cheeseman. He says, I feel like no one has asked us lately. Steve, how are you? How are things going? Things are going fine. I'm excited about WrestleMania. I got the weekend up. I tell you what, man, my lawnmower broke, and now my backyard, which looked amazing before, has overgrown just wildly. So now I'm stuck between, should I take it in to get it repaired, which is kind of a hassle and it'll probably take 3 weeks, or should I just plunk down and get a new lawnmower? I like the one I have. I think it's fine. New one would be like $400. Getting it fixed would be like 80 to 100 or 120 maybe. So I should probably just get it fixed. Then in the meantime, do I hire somebody to just do a once over on my lawn? I don't know. I got all these decisions to make. It's like the main stress on my mind, which I guess I should be grateful for because it's really not that stressful until I go and I look at my backyard. So there you go. I'm doing fine though. I'm good. My dog's over there. Where is she? She was over there. There she is. She's just sleeping. She's just snoring.